Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you for tuning into another video on the brand new A90 Supra build sponsored by Sparesbox. Now today I've got some new parts here at the workshop, which is very exciting to be sharing with you guys. And first of all, I'm going to run through probably a lot of the products that we have here, and then we're going to start trial fitting a lot of this stuff to the car. So to kick things off, first of all, we've got the brand new Turbosmart Turbo. Now this was released, I believe, at the end of last year. And I've chosen the 6466, which is a ball bearing oil and water turbo. Now the reason why I went for a oil and water, because they do come in two variations, you can either get them in just oil or oil and water, is because essentially the Supra is a race and drift car and will probably need as much cooling as possible considering how hard I'm going to be driving it. So I have opted for the water feature on this turbo just to make sure it lasts as long as possible and obviously stays as cool as we can get it. We've also got a few other items here which you can see. So we've got the WG50 Gen V Pro Gate. I've been running Pro Gates for as long as I can remember. I've never had an issue as well. They're an amazing product. And we've chosen the 50mm purely because we're not going probably over 900 horsepower or 1000 horsepower with the Supra. And we're going to be running it mainly on around 750 to 800 with this turbo on it, which is probably only its max rating anyway. Next up, we've got the FPR6, which is perfect for what we need it for as well, up to 1000 horsepower or more. And last on the list is the Race Port blow-off valve. Now, I don't usually run a blow-off valve on my car because I do like the flutter noise. I'm sure everyone does. But for the longevity of the turbo, we are going to be installing this on the Supra. And to hold all these components onto the 2JZ that is going in the car is a 6-boost manifold. So I've been running a 6-boost manifold for a long time. Again, I think the very first manifold I had on my drift car was a 6-boost in my SR20 powered 180SX. They have a huge collector and they are built pretty much for the best response you can get out of a manifold. I'm sure there's plenty of other manifolds out there, but I know these are one of the best on the market. Kyle from 6Boost has done a lot of engineering to make these things work really well, and we do want this 2J in the car to be as responsive as possible. So for that reason, I will always choose a 6Boost manifold. Something new on this manifold though, which I haven't had on previous manifolds, are EGT ports. These will help us measure the exhaust temperatures coming out of each individual cylinder. Obviously, just to make sure the engine's running smoothly, and we're going to be running a Haltech system to control that, just to make sure obviously everything is running as reliably as possible. Now, I did encounter a small issue when trial fitting this a short moment ago. As suspected, the manifold is fouling on the steering shaft and on the mount, and I would say the main reason for that is because the 1JZ block is about 20mm shorter in height than a 2JZ. So I'm going to have to get a mock-up 2JZ block off my good friend Matty from Red Sun Motorsport, and we're going to have to swap this over because I can't really get a good understanding of where everything's going to sit. I definitely think once we put that block in the car, it will sit in the right location. So at least this gives us some sort of idea of how it's kind of going to work and what we need to, or at least like how much clearance we have between the steering shaft and the engine mount, and get a better understanding of where things are going to sit. I've got an intake manifold for it as well, which is a mock-up manifold that I'm going to use for now. It's an old Elwood's Park manifold that I used to have on my S15, so I'm going to install that and see where that kind of lines up with everything. We've also got a box from Drift HQ, which for those of you who don't know is owned by Adam LZ in America. So this arrived last week, and this is probably one of my most favorite parts on the car, purely because rebuilding this section of the car would be absolutely hell and time consuming. So we've decided to opt for a very easy solution, which is the rear firewall. So that sits in there like that. And that's basically part of our rear firewall there. Obviously, we have to remove a few parts for that to sit nicely under there. But that's going to be a full carbon sheeted rear firewall from HGK which makes some of the coolest components that you can buy for Supras, E90s, and many other cars on the market. So we're going to fully sheet that up with the HGK Firewall. Comes in 3 pieces. Obviously, you can see here as well, has room for the roll cage bar that will go into the strut area there. We've had to get a special roll cage from Spain, from AST Roll Cages, to make sure that fits in there perfectly. So this is actually molded to the cage that's going in the car. Another huge thing we've had to kind of navigate in the build, but it's going to look epic and work really well. Now, we've got a few other parts to mention to you guys. Now that I can't really fit much more to the engine because I can't really trial fit the turbo with the manifold not fitting on the motor, I'll run you through the components that I got from Golby's recently, which are all the engine parts that are going to be placed into the short block that I'm going to disassemble in about 5 minutes because I can't do anything else in regards to trial fitment with the manifolds. Stupid me. So basically, starting off, we've got 86.5mm CP Nitto pistons. Now, Nitto have supercharged these pistons and upgraded pins and a few other components on them to make them a stronger setup. CP are already an amazing product. Nitto have just jumped in and made them even better. So we've opted for the 86.5mm piston with a 9:1 compression ratio. We don't know the condition of the block just yet, but it's probably going to need to be machined anyway, so we are going to oversize it 0.5 mil. Next up, we have the Nitto rods. Now, Red Sun Motorsport has pushed me to get Nitto components because he believes these are the best on the market. Both of these parts that are going into the motor, both the rods and the pistons, are definitely probably over-engineered for what we want. But you obviously want to build these motors to be as strong as possible, especially when you're going through the whole process from the ground up. The last component is the BPP billet mains. Now, the S15 doesn't have billet mains, as you may have seen in my last video. I did mention that. So we are going a full billet main setup in the Supra, just so we can blow the tires off it and have as much fun as possible without worrying about it, because like I mentioned in previous videos, the stock mains in the 2Js are amazing, but they're only good for around 800 horsepower, 850, and that's still kind of pushing it. But they are the major components that are going into the short block at the moment. I haven't purchased any other parts for it because I need to disassemble it and make sure that the block's okay before we start ordering any other parts. I know that these are the main components that we will need to get the engine underway with Red Sun Motorsport for him to start building this motor and putting it all together for us. So considering I have not a lot much more to do, as I can't trial fit anything to the motor at the moment, I'm going to rip this short block down right now, and then I'm going to head over to Red Sun Motorsport and get a GE block that he's got sitting there for me to place in the Supra, which I probably should have done at the beginning anyway. We'll get back onto that in the next video. But for today, let's strip this block down, get over to Maddie's, and let's check out the condition of the block. Alright guys, so as you can see, the motor is completely stripped, and I think I just stripped down the cleanest 2JZ I've ever seen. There's not one mark on any of the journals, on the crank, on the piston bearings, nothing. I'll show you. All these journals are absolutely perfect, and it's such a shame because if you guys know 2Js well, or even if you don't, these motors are extremely strong. So pretty much they are forged from factory. Obviously you always have to upgrade the springs in the head and the camshafts to get more power out of the motor. But factory, these are really, really strong. And it is really disappointing that I had to pull apart such a clean engine, because literally this motor could have gone in the car and made 700 horsepower and done exactly what I needed it to do. But we are building this motor to make it strong and reliable. We have all the parts that we need to do it, and the block is the perfect starting point for us to get this motor kicked off and into the Supra. All the bores are perfect. There's no damage at all. So that means we could have run 86mm pistons probably. Hasn't been measured, so we don't really know that yet. I'm just completely guessing. I don't have the tools here to measure shit. So these pistons are also immaculate. No wear marks on the skirts where they've been piston slapping or anything like that. It's crazy to think this motor is probably a very low K motor and has probably been serviced very well its whole life, because there's No major black staining in the sump. All the crank looks pretty good. Yeah, it just looks like it's really well looked after. So I'm absolutely stoked to be starting off with such a good base. But that's it, guys. Look, like I said, I can't really do much more with the Supra at the moment. I need to go to Red Sun to get that GE block that he's got there for me and drop off this block so he can get all these parts ready and prepped so we can build it. I still don't have a head for this motor yet, so if you guys know of anyone with a 2JZ GTE head second hand, I need one of those. I'm gonna get this video edited right now so I can try and get it online tonight so you guys can get a update. I'm trying to get these videos up weekly, fingers crossed every Tuesday night. So at the moment, that's pretty much the game plan. All right, guys, well, that's it for the engine install part 2 video. Obviously, nowhere near being installed yet, but we've stripped the motor down. We know what we're working with, and we've got all the parts here ready to build that at Red Sun Motorsport. Soon, we'll do a video on the assembly process at his shop, and next week, hopefully, I will have the new Wisefab and Shockworks suspension ready for this car and hopefully on the way towards us. So soon we'll do a suspension install video, and we've got a few more components coming as well. I've got the kit for the subframe so we can fit the winters to it, and a bunch of other stuff you guys will see very soon. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the content. I will see you next Tuesday, hopefully again with another video with some new stuff coming your way. Have a great week, guys. Thanks for watching.